in the last stretch, you guys, just waiting on episode 12 and it'll be the end of another iconic era. I couldn't help but notice a recurring pattern throughout this journey because, I have the observational skills of a detective. Sherlock wishes he had my insight. I kept seeing many posts on social media all coming back to the same point. They came for FirstKhao, but stayed for JoongDunk. So what exactly happened in the Heart Killers that led to Joong and Dunk grabbing everyone's attention while leaving fans kind of confused about First and Khao? Let's break it down. Warning, this can mention anything that happened up until episode 11, so if you're not caught up, spoiler alert. Hey, I'm Blush. Welcome or welcome back. We overanalyze BL dramas like it's a full-time job over here. Keep each other updated on the BL world and cover a lot of GMMTV. I'll link the playlist if you want to catch up on what's been going on over there. I use NordVPN that I actually pay for myself. It lets you switch your virtual location to access geoblog content, which means no more "this video is not available in your country" nonsense when you're trying to watch international BL series. Not sponsored, but if you're planning on getting it anyway, using my link helps support this channel. Plus now you feel like you're in Thailand when you're watching your faves, cause we are in fact delusional like that. I have a whole series in the making, just absolutely roasting BLs and BL fans. I'll leave them below if you want to cry of both laughter and pain. First and Khao are without a doubt one of GMMTV's most beloved pairings. Their undeniable talent for acting is a major reason, but let's be real, they're also just lovable, unproblematic icons. Their chemistry in The Eclipse, Only Friends, and even their brief moments in Moonlight Chicken built a strong following. Naturally, fans were excited to see them in a completely new dynamic, a crime thriller rom-com BL, far removed from their usual school or slice of life settings. Their track record speaks for itself. These two deliver intense emotions, deep connections, and layered performances every single time. No, seriously, is it even a FirstKhao project if they're not making us sob at some point? Given their history, many fans expected them to follow their usual enemies to lover formula, or some sort of slow burn, long stares, tense confrontations, something that'll eventually explode into something deeper. But the Heart Killers had other plans. Instead of a slow burn, we got somewhat of an instant romance, although they weren't in love just yet. The first scene set the tone that they were attracted to each other right from the get-go. There was no will they or won't they tension, no prolonged rivalry. They slept together right away. And when Kant woke up to find Bison gone, he was supposed to be indifferent because that was his character, yet you could tell he was a bit disappointed, already feeling some type of way about him. So the enemies to lovers angle viewers were used to, out the window. And in a way, that's fine. Fans often criticize GMMTV for repeating the same tropes anyways, so switching things up makes sense. But at the same time, you have to admit, enemies to lovers is a trope you just can't go wrong with and is fairly easy to execute, unlike the lovers to enemies back to lovers situation that we're about to see unfold. Soon after their first encounter, the police get involved and give Kant an ultimatum: bring down the brothers or go to jail. This is where the Heart Killers diverge from what made First and Khao's previous pairing so compelling. In their typical enemies to lovers story, both characters start on equal footing. They dislike each other, but as they clash, their emotions naturally shift. Here, only Bison was fully invested, while Kant was pretending. And since the audience already knew Kant was lying, it was harder to get emotionally attached to their romance because it felt imbalanced from the start. Kant didn't have to fight his attraction to Bison, he was forced into pursuing him. So instead of that delicious slow burn, we got a dynamic where one character was all in while the other was playing a role. One of the most satisfying aspects of enemies to lover, or even some sort of mutual pining trope, is watching a character slowly realize their emotions. The beauty of the trope is that the character has to do the work themselves. They struggle, they resist, they overthink, and eventually they surrender to their feelings. But with Kant, the journey was partially taken away from him because 1. He didn't choose to get close to Bison. He didn't wake up one day thinking, I can't stand this guy, but why do I kinda like him? Instead, he was pushed into the situation by Captain. That immediately changes the dynamic. Instead of Kant choosing to engage with Bison out of his own conflicted emotions, he was doing it out of external pressure. 2. There was no real emotional struggle at first. In Enemies to Lover, one of the best moments is when a character starts fighting their own emotions, when they realize their hate isn't as strong as they thought. But Kant never had this turmoil. He wasn't resisting attraction. He was just playing along to get what he needed. So by the time his feelings became real, the audience had already spent too much time watching him fake it. 3. His shift from fake feelings to real love felt rushed. Since Kant was acting like Bison's romantic partner, even if it was fake, there wasn't much room for emotional growth. In a slow burn, you can see the relationship evolve. Maybe they argue less, maybe one starts getting jealous, maybe they find excuses to see each other. But because Kant was already in love, his real emotions just blended into what he was faking before. There was no, "oh no, I actually love him" moment that hit the audience hard. Instead of being excited to see Kant and Bison realize their love, we were just waiting for the truth to come out, which is a very different kind of emotional investment. Then we have Bison, who, unlike Kant, isn't actively deceiving anyone, aside from, the small detail of being a hitman, but his character does raise a different question. Is he actually falling for Kant, or is he just desperate for an escape? Bison has spent his whole life as a hitman, forced into a violent and isolated existence. The moment someone comes along and offers him a glimpse of normalcy, he latches onto it. For most of the show, viewers don't really know if Bison is in love with Kant or if he's in love with the idea of Kant, a chance at a normal life that he's never been allowed to have. This makes the relationship feel less about Kant as a person and more about Bison projecting his desires onto him. Just like Kant, Bison doesn't really struggle with his emotions. He's not questioning his feelings or resisting them. He's just grasping at the first sign of normalcy. Because of that, his love story may feel weaker. It's not "how did I fall for him?" It's "oh, you're here? Great, let's date." Since Bison is emotionally starved and craving a life outside of his violent world, his interest in Kant comes off as desperation rather than romance. Instead of feeling like two people naturally drawn to each other, it feels like one person is latching on to their first chance to escape reality, while the other is still just playing a role, and that changes how viewers engage with the story. Instead of a gradual emotional journey, Bison and Kant's relationship feels like something that just happened to them. Instead of a slow, burning tension, the biggest source of suspense is waiting for Bison to find out the truth. So instead of being on the edge of our seats waiting for them to realize their love, we're just bracing ourselves for the inevitable heartbreak. And maybe that's why The Heart Killers didn't grip audiences the way a FirstKhao romance usually does. By the time The Heart Killers reached its final stretch, Kant and Bison were so deep into their own world that reality just stopped existing for them. And nothing made that clearer than their last 24 hours before Bison and Fidel had to go to jail. Instead of spending that time coming to terms with what was happening, making plans, or even just emotionally preparing, their final moments together were carefree, silly, and completely detached from the gravity of the situation. And in a weird way, it fits them. Bison has always longed for freedom, and when he finally gets that one last taste of it, he chooses just to live in the moment instead of dwelling on what comes next. Kant, who started off with actual self-preservation instincts, forgets why he's even there in the first place. "Sir, you were trying to stay out of jail. Why are you suddenly acting like this is some epic love story?" Instead of their love story being about facing reality together, it became about running from it. It's not "we love each other, we'll figure this out." It's "we love each other so nothing else matters." Which sure, sounds romantic in theory, but in execution, it makes them feel completely unhinged. They're acting like two people who have fully detached from consequences, and at that point, it's hard for the audience to stay emotionally invested. Instead of feeling like a powerful, fated romance, it starts to feel more like two people spiraling into a love-fueled fever dream. And maybe that's why their story didn't hit as hard as it could have, because the deeper they fell for each other, the further they fell from reality, making it a bit harder for viewers to get inside the character's head and imagine themselves feeling those emotions. It also gives the impression that if they are really carefree, how much longer until they stop caring to be together? Now, before anyone comes at me in the comments, let's be clear, FirstKhao absolutely delivered in The Heart Killers. Their performances were phenomenal, and they did exactly what they needed to do to bring Kant and Bison to life. The critique here isn't about that, but more so why it appears many are not really commenting much on their love story, as they have in their previous slow burn, emotionally layered love stories, especially since Only Friends also had the same director. I actually have a prediction for their upcoming series, although it's even more unserious than this one. It has talking cats, but I think it'll bring back the emotional storyline that they're known for. Regardless, it was still fun to see them in this new dynamic, and let's not get the narrative twisted. FirstKhao ate this up. If anything, they're the reason why Kant and Bison's relationship still had moments of emotional weight. At the end of the day, these two will always be one of GMMTV's strongest pairings, and whether you loved or struggled with the romance in The Heart Killers, their performance was undeniably top-notch. While Kant and Bison's relationship felt one-sided and rooted in deception, Fidel and Style's dynamics started on much more equal footing. Yes, technically Style was also pursuing Fidel for a deal. He was promised Kant's car if he could keep Fidel distracted while Kant worked on getting close to Bison, but unlike Kant, Style wasn't aware of the bigger picture. He didn't know Kant was actually trying to take down a hitman. He didn't know Kant was being coerced by the police. He was just in it for the car, which honestly is such a Style thing to do. But here's where their story took a turn. Style actually got fed up. Fidel was not playing along. He kept rejecting Style, telling him to F off, essentially, shutting down every attempt. And at some point, Style stopped caring about the car. He gained motivation all on his own, not because of a deal, but because he genuinely wanted Fidel. So this is why Fidel and Style felt more balanced than Kant and Bison. The biggest difference between these two relationships is that Style was in the dark just as much as Fidel was. Kant always knew everything. He was pursuing Bison knowing full well that his entire relationship was built on deception. Style, on the other hand, thought he was just helping a friend out. He had no idea there was a whole police operation behind the scenes. The small but important difference makes Fidel and Style's story feel more organic, because once Style started pursuing Fidel for real, his feelings were entirely his own. Unlike Kant, he wasn't just waiting for real emotions to kick in, he already had them. And that's what made their romance feel more genuine, more engaging, and ultimately more fun to watch. But then, of course, the truth comes out. Style always saw the good in Fidel. Even when he found out he was a hitman, he was shocked, yeah. But he didn't turn away from him. But the real damage came later, when Bison and Fidel finally find out Kant has been working for the police the entire time, causing Style to get caught in the crossfire. To Fidel and Bison, it suddenly looks like Style was part of the plan too. Like he was sent to get close to Fidel, just like Kant got close to Bison. And just like that, Fidel's walls Style spent so long tearing down came right back up. The betrayal completely resets their relationship, not because Style did anything wrong, but because Fidel feels played. And at that point, the brothers decide they have one solution: to kill Kant and Style. But of course, love has other plans, but not before murder attempts. Before they can go on with it, the brothers realize they actually love Kant and Style. Compared to Kant and Bison's messy, almost delusional romance, Fidel actually had an emotional journey, from cold and distant to vulnerable and in love. Style fought for his relationship, and then it was ripped away. He actually had to earn Fidel's trust back. Their love was put to the test multiple times, and by the end, it felt deserved rather than something that just happened to them. And maybe that's why in the end viewers stayed for them. Once all four team up and take down Mom, it seems like everything is finally falling into place. The brothers are free from the organization. The relationships with Style and Kant are real and solid. For a brief moment, it looks like they can actually have a happy ending. But the police catch up to Bison and Fidel, because no matter how much they wanted to escape their past, their crimes still exist. So in the end, do they get their happily ever after? Well, they do. For 24 hours. If Kant and Bison spent their last day before jail in pure delusion, Fidel and Style did the exact opposite. Instead of just goofing off and pretending real life didn't exist, they spent their time revisiting all the things and places that actually mattered to them. They saw Fidel's dad, who basically got a marriage proposal lined up for Style in 5 years, visited Fidel's grave, which out of context sounds wild, but makes sense, and we finally know what he was digging in those early episodes. They played paintball, or paint bag. They revisited that support group, and the way the camera captures the whole support group room with just Style and Fidel symbolizes that all the support they need is right there. Finally, their last meal together at the burger shop. Also, Fidel gives him the pin that he ripped off of him in the first place. I feel like these two didn't just live in the moment, they really tried to make the moment matter. If there's one thing the Heart Killers did right, it was giving JoongDunk a story that actually let them shine. Let's be honest, JoongDunk's previous roles didn't always give them the best material to work with. Star in My Mind was a cute first project, but the writing felt too simple and their chemistry wasn't fully explored. Hidden Agenda had potential, but the pacing dragged and their characters didn't have much depth to work with. But then comes the Heart Killers, and suddenly they're given a story with tension, emotional weight, and a dynamic that actually makes sense. Since this is some of the best material they've had so far, it's no wonder that they grabbed everyone's attention. So now that we've broken it all down, what do you think is coming in the finale? Let me know in the comments below.